Hello and welcome to Beach View, our podcast about things and/or stuff.
Welcome. Today we're going to go through a retrospective / overview of a series.
Yep. I guess I'll go first, and I'm doing the Tony Hawk video game series.
Oh, that sounds interesting. All right, let's get into this.
Yeah, so I assume you're familiar with Tony Hawk.
I am, yes. Very popular figure when I was growing up and still is because I like to read all those things that he posts.
Oh, yes.
It's usually about like people not recognizing him, you know?
Yeah.
Or they're like, oh, dude, you have the same name as that dude, Tony Hawk. And like it really is him, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway, those are funny.
Yeah, so he's a famous skateboarder. Basically became synonymous with skateboarding for a while there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's still very much relevant, too.
Yeah, which skateboarding became quite popular in the 90s, like started hitting mainstream popularity, which continued well into the 2000s. And that popularity eventually led to Tony Hawk signing his name onto a skateboarding game.
Yeah.
Which became a beloved and popular series even outside of skateboarding culture. And probably got a lot of new people into skateboarding regardless. And I want to talk about that series.
Yeah.
Because they're fun games and I have opinions about them.
Well, good. I don't know that I've ever played any of those games, but I am, like, somewhat familiar with them. Just, like, I guess from seeing other people play over the years, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm a big Tony Hawk fan, so I'm interested to see what you think about the games.
So, a few things as a general overview. So, in the Tony Hawk games, you play as a skater doing skateboarding in a level. And the levels are usually based off of some real-world location. And you go around doing tricks on your skateboard, which give you points. And you can combine these tricks together, which give you a multiplier for those points. And these combos give you more points the longer they go on, and they get harder to keep up. And one of the goals of the game, in every game, is to get a high score.
And you get the higher scores based on, like, the tricks that you do?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, like, kick flips and stuff, grinding a rail.
Gotcha.
There are also random goals to complete in each of the games, which involve, like, doing sort of random stuff, collecting things, or finding areas, or, like, doing specific tricks in specific areas.
Cool.
And both of these goals involve, like, exploring the levels and learning them and, like, finding, like, secret areas and finding good areas to, like, get high scores and stuff.
So, is it different locations?
Yeah.
Different locations on each level, or, like, you have to find places to board on, I'm guessing? Yeah.
Yeah, and some of it's, like, finding what you think's the best, like, place to string together a combo to get a high score.
Ah, I gotcha.
So there's some, like, creativity in using the mechanics.
Cool.
Yeah, and the series is well regarded for its mechanics and its level design. That's kind of like a thing that has been praised for throughout the years. And something worth mentioning is that it's not super realistic.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a total fantasy, but the physics in Tony Hawk World are looser than they are in real life.
I can imagine, yeah.
Which is a deliberate choice for the sake of the gameplay, just to, like, make it a bit more unrealistic to be fun.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if it was realistic, it would take way longer to, like, figure out how to do certain moves, right?
Yeah. Though there are actually skateboarding games that take a more realistic approach for people who are into that sort of thing. The games also each have a soundtrack of licensed music, and the series is well regarded for this. Like, people really like the Tony Hawk soundtracks.
That's cool.
And it's largely punk and, like, pop-punk stuff, with some, like, hip-hop and metal and alt-rock stuff like that thrown in.
Yeah.
Although they did get a bit broader in genre as the series progressed. That's still its, like, mainstay.
That's cool.
And something neat about the soundtracks is they often would get, like, artists who are lesser known. So, it's kind of neat.
To feature. I love that. Like, they kind of help discover some artists on that scene by making it more, I guess, mainstream through a video game. That's cool. It's giving them exposure.
Mm-hmm. Now I'm going to get into the game-by-game breakdown. So, the first part of the series history are all games developed by Neversoft and published by Activision.
Okay.
The first game is Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, which was released in 1999 for the PlayStation and later ported to other consoles. So in this game, the main thing you do is load into a level, and you're given 2 minutes to complete several goals. These goals involve getting a high score, finding collectibles, interacting with the environment in some way, finding like little secret areas in the level, stuff like that.
That's pretty cool. So I was going to ask you which console it was on. So it started on the PlayStation?
Yes.
Yeah. Cool.
It was also on like the Nintendo 64 in this era. They made like Game Boy versions, which were a lot like more constrained.
Yeah.
Just because the relative power level, like it's a whole thing.
Yeah.
Now, you don't have to complete all of the goals in one go, so you can say take 2 minutes to get a high score, and then reset, and like once the timer runs out, and then go try to find the specific collectibles you're looking for.
Like, what kind of collectibles do you mean?
So it's just like various things. Some of them are themed to the levels, like one of the levels is based on a mall, so you have to find, like, smash, like mall directories.
Oh.
All the levels have like little floating letters that spell out skate, so you gotta go get all of those. Stuff like that.
I got you. So you have to find them first, I'm guessing? Like, you have to go around the levels and find them? Okay.
Yeah, and part of it's like learning the level as you do that, like trying to find them and get them all in one go.
Cool.
So I've never played this game, but it sold a lot of copies and it got a lot of praise. Obviously, it became the basis for a whole series, and people generally look fondly when they look back on this game. However, it's largely believed that the future games in the series surpass it, just like a lot of the stuff they added ends up like really being core to the series.
So I thought you had played the games, but you haven't?
Not this first one, no.
I got you, okay.
The second game, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, real original title there.
Yeah.
Released in 2000, again originally for the PlayStation and later was ported to other consoles. This game follows the same format as before, but with new levels and more goals. So 2-minute timer, doing various goals during that time, that sort of thing. Its big addition was the manual, which is a skateboarding trick similar to a wheelie on a bike. And the big thing about manuals in the game is they let you continue your combos for much longer, because previously, if you landed on the ground, your combo just ended. Now with the manual, you can land into a manual and your combos keep going, which means you can get much higher scores than you could previously.
Okay.
And this becomes like a huge game changer. It's like a core part of the series mechanics going forward, and like, this is where it starts. This game, again, sold a lot, got a lot of praise. So, again, continued the series. I've also never played this one. The first 2 games later got remade, so I've played the remakes and not never gone back and played the originals.
So, I'm assuming, when they remake like an old game, they're just kind of adding more functionality and
it depends.
Maybe better graphics and stuff?
It depends. That is like a wide range of like...
Okay.
Usually there's at least like better graphics, but that's not always the case. Sometimes it's literally just like they want to try to faithfully reproduce it as close as possible for like a new generation. Sometimes they will change mechanics and stuff. Sometimes they try to leave it as same as possible. Sometimes they look like radically different and can kind of play a bit different, but are basically the same game. Or like the same story or something. It just depends.
Yeah. Okay.
Not really relevant at the moment because this is, the second game in the series. The remake's kind of like way down the line.
Okay, gotcha.
But this game is, again, remembered fondly. And the addition of the manual specifically, like that becomes a huge part of the mechanics going forward. And that's like especially remembered as like this is the game that like really makes Tony Hawk what it is.
Yeah. That's cool.
Next is Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3, released in 2001 for the PlayStation 2 and later ported to other consoles. The big thing about this game is that it released on the new generation of consoles, so, the PlayStation 2 instead of the PlayStation 1, so there was a big graphical and performance update. This game follows the same format, but with new levels again, and it tightened up the mechanics and made playing the game generally feel better than the previous two. And the big new addition for this game is the revert, which is a trick that involves pressing a button once you land from a quarter pipe. Do you know what a quarter pipe is?
Yes.
Okay.
Kind of. Maybe, I don't know. I know what a half pipe is, so I'm guessing a quarter pipe is just,
half of a half pipe, yeah. It's
the
little ramp things that people go up and then do tricks and land.
Yeah. I figured that's what that was, so, okay.
Yeah. And, so this is a big deal because it allows for you to combo for longer, once again. Previously, if you landed after going up a quarter pipe, your combo just ended. And, like, this being, like, a game that's trying to gamify skateboarding, that, like, was a pretty big part of the series, is, like, going up quarter pipes to do tricks. And now, once you land, you can revert and keep going. It wasn't as big of a deal as a manual, but it's still a pretty useful trick.
Yeah.
It also added some other, like, new mechanics, but those generally aren't, like, as impactful as the revert. And this game, again, sold well and was well received. In fact, some people consider this to be the best in the series, and some people even consider this to be one of the best games of all time.
Wow, that's impressive.
So, like, just between, like, the new, like, mechanics added and, like, the graphical update and stuff, like, a lot of people feel like this is really where the series came into its own and is really the best in the series.
How do you feel?
This is the first one I've actually played.
Okay.
I don't think it's one of the best games of all time. I don't even think it's the best in the series.
That's funny.
So I think the level design in this game is worse than in the previous two. Like, not bad, just not as good as Pro Skater 1 and 2. Also, they added a new style of goal to this game, and that, like, seems like it's largely there to just flex the new console's abilities, rather than be, like, a fun goal in its own right.
I mean, that sounds about right.
Yeah. Which means that in general, I feel like the levels are less fun to play than the previous two games, but it's still a fun game.
That's cool.
And next, you want to guess what the next one was named?
Oh, is it 4?
Yes. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4. Released in 2002 for PlayStation 2, GameCube, and Xbox, and again later ported to other consoles. This game finally changed the basic play structure. So no longer are players constrained to a 2-minute timer, and the goals were no longer all at once. Now you can skate around freely, and you would go up to NPCs or certain locations to start each goal individually.
That sounds kind of cool. So it's like you have a little bit more, I guess freedom to play it how you want to play it, huh?
Yeah, I think that's the idea. So this resulted in the levels becoming much larger and more spread out, and there also being more goals per level. This game also added quite a bit of new mechanics, none of which were game changers like the ones added in previous entries, but they're there, and especially if you're going for high scores, they become like a big thing. Not really something I care about, but this does fill out the mechanic set of the series. This game also sold well and got quite a bit of praise. It's not quite as beloved in retrospect as Pro Skater 3, generally speaking, but people still really like it.
Why do you think that is?
I'm not quite sure. I think maybe it just being like the second game to come out on the like new consoles and like uh it just adding different stuff and being a bit different than the originals. I don't know. Maybe that's just like stuff I've seen. Like people still really like this game. It's
Yeah.
just I think generally speaking 3 gets like the nod for the best one.
I got you. Okay. I would think like having the more freedom and the bigger levels and stuff would be like a funner game to play, but I mean, I don't really know.
Could just be my bias, because I've also played this game, and I do not like it at all.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh, I see. I would think it'd be more fun.
I think it's hands down one of the worst in the series.
What? Okay. So they had a little bit of a misfire on that one, huh?
Yeah, I think the level design is by far the worst it's been so far, and like even compared to future games, I think it's still like just bad.
Oh, that sucks.
And I think that new structure of like bigger levels, not having a timer, you skate around and choose which goal, I think that is way worse for the series.
Oh, I thought it'd be better, but I can see how it'd be like, I guess not as structured, so maybe, I
Well,
don't
now
know.
you're only doing, like, to me it feels more structured because now you're only
Oh,
doing one goal at a time.
okay.
Whereas previously all goals were available at once. Like, yeah, you had the clock, but, like, you could do them in whatever order you wanted, like, take your own path if you wanted, which I feel leads to some more creativity and freedom, and, like,
Ah,
to me is a more fun experience. And, like, the goal select model just really, like, ugh. Like, I feel like as a result of that, some of the way some of the goals are designed is that there is, like, one path for you to go through them. There's not like, you start the goal and then you're dropped into like the one path and you have to execute that like as it's
okay.
created, and you don't get to like, do it your own way and try to find your own way through.
Okay.
That's like just my opinion on it. Obviously, like I said, people like this game.
So it sounds a little counterintuitive to like, I guess how, when you first say it's more like you have more freedom. To me, it sounds like it'd be more fun, but like you're kind of saying it kind of isn't because it makes you do things in a certain way, even though supposedly you have more freedom. So
Yeah.
I guess it's a little counterintuitive to what I would originally think.
Yeah, well, I'm sure some people like the bigger levels and being able to just like skate around in them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also think like they added some new types of goals for this game, and I don't like them. It's just, I don't know, not for me.
Yeah.
The basic mechanics are still solid, it's still a fun game to play, and the new additions to the mechanics are largely fine, but overall, because of these reasons, I just don't like this game at all. Not a fan.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Alright, well, next is, do you want to try to guess?
Ooh, 5.
No.
What? Was it like 4.1 or
No,
something?
next is Tony Hawk's Underground. Not even a pro
Oh,
skater. So,
okay.
this was released in 2003 for PlayStation 2, GameCube, and Xbox, among other consoles. This is the first game to not have the pro skater name, and also the first game to feature a story.
Oh, there's a storyline to it, huh?
Yeah, this game largely follows the same structure as Pro Skater 4, but with a story now. So, large levels being freely available with no timer, you tackle each goal one at a time, that sort of thing.
Ah.
And the story involves you creating a character, and then you follow your character and their friend as they try to become professional skateboarders. So they do a bunch of skateboarding, gradually become more and more popular, and travel to cities around the world, mostly in America, but you also go to cities around the world.
That sounds cooler to me. Like you have a storyline to follow.
Yeah. Also, your friend constantly betrays you. Like, each arc of the story involves your friend doing something to screw you over.
That's so rude.
It's not a great story, honestly.
Oh. I mean, it sounds intriguing.
Yeah. This game also allows you to get off your skateboard and walk around, which is new, and also involves other vehicles. It again added some new mechanics, the biggest of which, to me at least, is a wall push, where if you're going into a wall, you can press a button to push off of it in reverse directions.
Oh.
It's not a huge addition, but I think it's neat.
I mean, I think that would be pretty cool, because, I mean, that's what you do in real life, right?
I mean, I don't
Sometimes,
know.
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't skateboard, so.
Well, yeah, I don't either.
Yeah. It again sold well and was well praised. It's fondly remembered generally, but it's not quite as beloved as the previous two games in the series.
Yeah.
At least as far as I can tell. It could be wrong. I've also played this one, and I think it's alright. I, again, don't like the new structure that carried over from Pro Skater 4, and the story's not very good. I mean, I guess it's neat to have a story, even though it's just not.
It's not good. Yeah.
But I think the level design is much better than Pro Skater 4. Not 1 to 3 good, but I digress. And while walking around, the new vehicle sections are largely pointless. Like, seriously, they must have been running out of ideas. Why would you add that to a skateboarding game? I don't get it.
That is a little odd.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems a little weird, but I don't know. Maybe they're just trying to add something in to be more intriguing. I don't know.
I don't know. They're not so bad and so prevalent as to detract from the game overall. And all in all, I think it's a fun game. Not the series' peak, but also not its trough.
Okay.
Next, Tony Hawk's Underground 2. Released in 2004, again for PlayStation 2, GameCube, and Xbox, among other consoles. This game is similar to Underground 1, similar structure, also has a story. I don't think it's a direct sequel, though. I don't remember the story very well.
Was it one to stick in your memory, huh?
Yeah. The story is less conventional than the previous game, which is much more like of a plotted thing, and it is basically just Jackass with skateboards.
Yeah. Okay.
It involves you and some skaters going from city to city, like around the world, and doing Jackass stuff. Again, I don't remember it very well.
That's pretty funny.
Actually, wasn't one of the guys from Jackass a skateboarder?
That sounds right.
If so, I'm pretty sure he's in this game.
Oh, okay. So it really is Jackass on skateboards.
This game also has a classic mode, which is returned to the structure from the original Pro Skater, the 2-minute timers, multiple goals to complete while that time ticks down sort of thing. And this classic mode also involves some remixed versions of the levels from the first Pro Skater games. Again, it includes some mechanical additions, but nothing major. Like, the mechanics are pretty set in stone at this point, like pretty well nailed down. There's some minor things here and there. This game sold pretty well and was generally well received, but as far as I know, it was less well liked than previous entries. Like, this is the first time you really start seeing a dip. And that's largely held up to this day.
Really? Like, people just became disinterested in the whole series?
Well, I think it's more that this game is, like, less well regarded.
Okay.
On its own merits. Like, most people still like it, but it's not generally regarded as the series' high point.
Okay.
I have also played this one, and it's fine, I think. The story mode isn't as good as the first one to play through, I don't think. But I think it's better than Pro Skater 4. And the classic mode is a nice addition, but I don't think it's as good as Pro Skaters 1 through 3. The level design is worse to me than any of the levels in those games. And I don't like the remixed levels from older games. Like, it's just like they made them worse.
Oh, that's terrible.
But yeah, not a bad game, just not my favorite. Alright, next, do you want to try to guess what the next game in the series is named?
It's probably like Above Ground 1. No. Underground 3?
No, Tony Hawk's American Wasteland.
Oh, I would have never guessed that. Why is it a wasteland?
I don't know.
Okay.
Released in 2005 for PS2, GameCube, and Xbox, and then later it came out on the Xbox 360 as well as some other consoles. This game is notable for being the first in the series on a new console generation, so the upgrade from PS2 now to the Xbox 360. It has a similar structure to the Underground games, except the selling point of this one is that all the levels are interconnected. So rather than go to a menu to go from one level to the other, you simply skate over to it in-game.
That's kind of cool.
You can also ride a bike in this one for some reason. I don't know why. It has a story and takes place in Los Angeles, but I've never played this game, so I don't know the story.
Oh, you weren't interested?
No, I guess I just kind of skipped this one.
Okay.
Also, an interesting thing that this game's soundtrack does is that they hired a bunch of currently working artists to do covers of classic punk songs.
That's cool.
So they have Taking Back Sunday and Fall Out Boy and My Chemical Romance, and they got them all to do a bunch of artists to do covers of classic punk songs, which is kind of neat.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, so this game sold decently and had a generally positive reception, although, less positive than previous entries. You can tell, the series has kind of gone downhill to most people by this point. Not, completely, crapped out or whatever, but it just not quite what it used to be.
That sucks, though. It's like you find a game you like and then it just kind of goes downhill.
Yeah. And this game generally doesn't seem to be well remembered today. People don't seem to talk about it when talking about the series too much, for whatever reason.
That stinks.
Yeah. I mean, I've never played it, so I don't really have any opinions of it.
Yeah.
Next, Tony Hawk's Project 8. Released in 2006 for Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, also ported to other consoles. This was the first game to be developed for the next generation of consoles. American Wasteland did get an Xbox 360 release, but it wasn't, made for 360. This one was. And since it was on the next-gen consoles, it got a new engine to, make use of the power behind those consoles.
That's cool.
And being, a next-generation console game, like I said, it's got improved graphics and performance, all that sort of stuff. It's similar to American Wasteland. The main difference is that the interconnected levels are seamless in this one. In American Wasteland, there were loading screens between them. So you can just fully skate between levels, no loading screens. And this story is far less plot-heavy than some of the previous games. The story is that Tony Hawk shows up to the player character's town, and he's trying to find the best skaters or whatever. So he creates a ranking system, and you go around doing goals to climb up the ranking system, with the goal of getting into the top 8.
Cool.
There's also some new mechanics this game added, but it's not really worth getting into any detail about. Again, everything with the mechanics is mostly set, just little additions here and there.
Can you ride some other kind of vehicle in this one?
No, actually.
Oh.
First time in a while.
Part.
Yeah, it's been the case. Yeah, and this game, again, sold decently and had a generally positive reception. Again, not the most well-regarded in the series, but it is considered the best of the newer era of Neversoft Tony Hawk games. So, post the, Pro Skater for Underground sort of thing.
Okay.
And I have played this one. I think it's pretty decent. It's not the best game in the series, but it's fun.
Okay.
To me, the level design is the best of the new like the new structure of games where they're like, big levels, you go to an area and start a goal rather than the like timer thing.
Yeah.
And I think the levels all being interconnected is really neat. Like you can like string together some cool stuff by like going from one area to the next. And I like the minimal story thing of you just like doing goals to get ranks, like to climb up Tony Hawk's little ladder thing.
Yeah.
I think it's a neat little like story mode.
So let me ask you this real quick. Are you like a different character or are you Tony Hawk?
Okay, so yeah, in the original like 1 through 4, you play as like any number of skaters. You can also create your own skater, but like
okay,
they're pro skaters, like just like a bunch of different professional skateboarders got put in that you can choose to play as to go through the levels. And there's also some like bonus characters, like Neversoft was working on a Spider-Man game at the time, so they put Spider-Man in, stuff like that.
Okay, I gotcha.
But as the games get more story-driven, you like play as a specific character that you create, and not Tony Hawk.
Yeah.
Although you can, in like multiplayer mode and like free skate mode, play as Tony Hawk.
Okay.
Or any other skater. Yeah, and like mentioned previously, there's no extra vehicles or whatever in this one. You're just skateboarding.
Yeah. Which I guess is what the whole game is about, right?
Yep. Yeah, definitely a solid entry to the series in my opinion. I like Project 8.
Cool.
Alright, next, Tony Hawk's Proving Ground, which for some reason every time I read I want to say is Proving Ground. I don't know why.
Well, why is it Proving Ground? What does that mean?
A Proving Ground's like a term, right?
Yeah.
Like a general thing. I don't know.
Okay.
Released in 2007 for the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, as well as other consoles. It's similar to the previous entries, so like the Underground to like American Wasteland Project 8 era, and also features a classic mode.
Which is what? What's that mean?
Like in Underground 2 had a classic mode. It's the 2-minute timer, all the goals at once sort of thing.
Oh. Okay, gotcha.
The main thing of this game is that it features like 3 separate like tracks you can go down in the story mode. There's the like traditional story mode thing. One involves Create-a Park stuff, and one is called Hardcore. Create-a Park is a feature I didn't mention, but all of these games let you like make your own levels to skate on.
So you can kind of create your own like skateboarding park?
Yeah.
Okay.
This game takes place in Baltimore, DC, and Philadelphia. It has interconnected levels. And I've never played it, so I don't know much about it. I think it has a story, but I don't know anything about it, so.
So why didn't you play some of these? You just weren't interested in getting them?
Well, so I didn't play a lot of these games as they came out, like at the time, and afterwards when they were still kind of like popular. I got into the series a bit later, and then like some of these I just never went back. Like I never went back to 1 and 2 because I played the remakes of those, so I was like, no point. And then like American Wasteland and Proving Ground, I was just like, I don't know.
Yeah,
I just didn't
like,
get around to.
Skip those. Yeah.
This game sold decently, but it had a mixed reception. Some people liked it, others didn't. I don't know like what the criticism or like praises were of it, but it had mixed reception. And today this game's like hardly mentioned for whatever reason.
Not as relevant as they maybe thought it would be.
Yeah, I don't know. This is also the last game in the series that Neversoft developed, who were the like from 1999 to 2007 were the developers of the Tony Hawk series. So, big shakeup after this point.
Really?
Yeah, so after this point, due to decreases in sales and worsening reception, Activision changed the developers of the series. Neversoft got reassigned to other games published by Activision, and went from there.
So do you think that was a good move, or?
I mean, We'll get into it.
Okay.
Most people don't think it was a good move.
Okay.
So, I want to mention some spin-offs. Around this time, there were multiple spin-offs. In 2006, there was Tony Hawk's Downhill Jam, developed by Toys for Bob, primarily for Wii, but it also came out for other consoles. In 2008, there was Tony Hawk's Motion, developed by Create Studios, released exclusively for the DS. And in 2009, there was Tony Hawk Vert, developed by Glue Mobile for phones. I don't know much about these games, I just figured I'd mention them for the sake of being thorough.
Yeah, okay.
From this point on, the series got handed to Robomoto, so it's the new developers. The next two games in the series are 2009's Tony Hawk Ride and 2010's Tony Hawk Shred. You might have noticed they dropped the apostrophe S and just put a colon.
Yeah.
Don't know why they did that.
I like
They
it.
just did.
Yeah.
These were released for Wii, PlayStation 3, and Xbox 360, and took the game series in an entirely new direction. So instead of your normal play, like using a controller, these had a special skateboard controller that were like a full-size, like, skateboard-looking thing
Oh,
that you
gosh.
stood on to, like, simulate a real skateboard.
Is that, like, fun, or is it harder?
I don't know, I've never played it. Like, these came out in the era of, like, Guitar Hero and Rock Band, and, like, there were, like... This was, like, a thing to try to make games that had weird controllers.
Had some kind of device, yes. Yeah. I remember that era.
But yeah, I've never played them, so I can't say much about them. Neither of them sold very well, nor were they well received. People did not like the new gameplay style and felt like the little skateboard thing didn't always work the best.
Oh.
And these are largely remembered today as like a silly relic of their era.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, of that like Guitar Hero ripoffs of like make a weird controller for your thing.
Yeah, I always thought like just even the Guitar Hero thing was like kind of weird that you'd have to get this whole like other device just to play that one game, you know?
Yeah. Although Guitar Hero was really fun, so.
Yeah.
Back in the day. Yeah, and their failure caused the series to be put on hold.
How sad for Tony Hawk. I mean, it's kind of disappointing, I guess, like for Tony Hawk to have his name on this stuff, and it's like kind of, you know, not really well received. But I mean, I guess that's the chance you take, and I'm sure Tony Hawk doesn't care. Like, he's probably getting like royalties from this anyway, so
Yeah.
he probably couldn't care less.
Well, I think he was genuinely interested in like them making good games, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a bummer. Like, you attach your name to something and, you know, it's like, not really a great thing, you know?
But yeah, so something you might have noticed up to this point is the yearly release schedule.
Yeah? Every couple of years?
Yeah, so they would come out with the game every year.
Okay.
This is something that Activision loved to do with its franchises, and, like, in retrospect, people think it was a bad move.
Just because they were rushed?
Partially, but also, like, you know, if, more spread out releases gives the developers more time, you know, so they're not rushed, so they can, like, really sit down and think, okay, like, what do we want to add in a new game, and really get time to work on that.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, it gives the audience some breathing room, so they don't get, like, tired of the series.
Yeah.
But that's not what happened. You know, obviously the publisher wants to make as much money as possible. So, you know, put them out every year.
Right.
And, yeah, this led to the franchise going, you know, in limbo, effectively. You know, unsure what the future's going to hold for it.
Bummer.
And during this time, we get Tony Hawk's Pro Skater HD, released in 2012, developed by Robomoto, and it came out on 360, PS3, and PC as download-only titles. And, as the name implies, it is a high-definition remake of the first two Pro Skater games.
That's cool.
Levels from the third game were later added, although having said that, it's not actually a full remake of those earlier games, it's missing levels, and also did not feature all of the songs from previous Pro Skater games.
Huh, I wonder why.
Probably licensing issues. It can be difficult to get everything.
Yeah.
It sold decently, but had a mixed reception. Some people liked it, because it had been like 5 years since there had been a real Tony Hawk game. And some people still liked the gameplay, even though there was, like, stuff missing. Others really did not like it. Like, the fact that it was missing so much from the original turned a lot of people off.
Yeah.
And not helping this was the fact that the game engine and physics system were different from the originals. So, like, the gameplay was mostly the same. It felt quite a bit different to actually play. Now, I have played this one, and generally I like it. I think the level design from Pro Skater 1 and 2 is the best in the series, and, those are still the same levels, largely. And I like the classic 2-minute timer style that this is a throwback to. And the new engine does mean that the game is a bit wonky compared to the originals, but I still think it's a fun experience.
Oh, that's cool. So you found one that you like.
Well, I've said positive things about the other ones, too.
Yeah, you seem to sound like you like this one better, though.
I mean, I like regardless of if it's, I think this one isn't as good to play as previous entries in the series, just because of the new, physics engine and whatnot. The levels are still really good. Like, the levels in the originals are still really good, so.
Gotcha. That sounds pretty cool.
Yes, alright, so, next is Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5. So, they finally made a 5th Pro Skater.
Good.
Again, developed by Robomoto, and released in 2015 for Xbox One and PlayStation 4, and later ported to the previous consoles, so the Xbox 360 and PS3. This game is weird.
How so?
It has a somewhat similar structure to the original Pro Skaters, but it also has some new stuff that I don't quite know how to describe, like the way you do goals some of the time, and enter into levels is really weird. It's also made in the same engine as Pro Skater HD, and it features some new mechanics. I've played a demo for this game, but never played the full release. And the reason for that is, it did not sell well and was very poorly received.
Oh.
So I figured I was gonna just not go out and buy it. There's also not a PC release, so I was like, I don't want to bother with it.
Ooh, how are they just not getting this right, though?
Well, it was clearly rushed and not finished on release. Clearly needed more time in development. And people just hated this game when it came out.
Okay, why do developers do that? I know it's a common thing, but why don't they just take the time to get it right?
Well, because this isn't just a developer thing. They have a publisher, and the publisher wants it out by a certain time. So you get as much time as the publisher gives you. It's not, well, we want to take more time on it, let's take more time on it. It's there is another entity in this.
I just don't understand why they don't just, I don't know, reach an agreement. I'm sure they do in some instances, but why would you want to release something that's not gonna come across good, why wouldn't you want to take more time? But maybe they gave them more time, and they just didn't get it right,
No, they
yeah.
Not in this case.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some times where that does happen, but not in this case.
Ugh, that stinks.
Yeah, but it was extremely glitchy due to it being rushed.
Mm-hmm.
And the new stuff they added did not go over well. And the already unpopular, physics model that it carried over from Pro Skater HD did it no favors. Some called this the worst game of the year, and a disgrace to the series.
That's harsh.
Yeah. It was not well received at all. And though I've never really played it, I kinda have a soft spot for this one.
Yeah?
Just because of the circumstances surrounding it, it clearly did not get as much development time as it needed.
Yeah.
And, I don't think the new stuff they tried really worked, but I appreciate that they, like, tried new stuff, you know?
Yeah.
And I wish it would have gotten the time, like, it needed. Because like, even if it didn't work out, it would have at least been interesting, you know?
Yeah.
It's just what it is, I guess. Now, at this point, the licensing deal between Tony Hawk and Activision expired, which is probably why Pro Skater 5 was so rushed.
Oh, yeah, that makes more sense.
They needed something out to capitalize off the name before they lost it, and the series seemed possibly dead for a second time now. And, you know, there's, like, larger, like, cultural issues contributing to this. Like, skateboarding at this point is long since past its height of cultural relevancy. The games industry has changed a lot, like, even from, like, 2007 to 2015. And, like, you know, Activision lost the Tony Hawk license. The last game being a massive flop meant that a lot of people were like, well, we might never get another Tony Hawk game.
Oh.
But there was other Tony Hawk games. Tony Hawk's Skate Jam, which was developed by Maple Media and released in 2018 for phones. This is the only game in the series not published by Activision, and I don't know anything about this game. I just found out about it literally today.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's kind of funny.
Didn't hear about it when it came out. Like, I guess I just completely missed it. I mean, I'm not plugged into phone games, so...
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like phone games are a totally different, you know, level that either you're into them or you're not, you know?
Yeah, kinda. And, yeah, so, like, also, for whatever reason, it later dropped Tony Hawk from its name, and if you look it up now, it's called Skate Jam Pro Skateboarding?
I wonder
which
why.
is weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't, like, look into it deeply, but I was like, you know, I was first, did someone, like, on Wikipedia just go in and edit this?
Right.
So I looked it up, and no, there's, like, a video of Tony Hawk advertising it.
What?
It's just, like, you go look it up today, and it's no longer called Tony Hawk's Skate Jam.
It's so odd.
Yeah. So I don't know what happened there. Apparently it plays kind of like the classic Tony Hawk games, but for phones, but I don't know. Yeah, anyways, after this point, Tony Hawk did work out a new deal with Activision, or something of the sort. And the next game in the series is Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1+2, developed by Vicarious Visions, published by Activision, and released in 2020 for PC, Xbox One, and PlayStation, and later ported to other consoles.
So, why is it 1+2?
Because it is a remake of the first two Pro Skater games.
That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. Vicarious Visions actually worked on porting some of the older games back in the day. So, they had experience with this series.
Cool.
I mean, I don't know how many people who worked there back then still worked on this game, but...
Yeah.
You know.
Years later.
So, yeah, it's another remake, but unlike Pro Skater HD, it features all of the levels, and also adds all the new mechanics that, well, not all of them, there's not like, you know, you're not driving a car or a bike or whatever in this one.
That's good.
But, yeah, it, added all the new skateboarding mechanics from the later entries. And even though this was on a different engine from the original games, the developers took great pains to try to replicate the physics and gameplay of the originals. If you'll remember, this was a big complaint of the Robomoto games.
So they listened.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
They also got almost every song from the originals back and added a bunch of new songs.
That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and the game sold well and was generally well received. You know, many who were fans of the series saw it as a return to form, and it got quite a bit of buzz when it came out. So, I've played this one, and I think it is easily the best game in the series.
Really?
Yeah, like I said previously, I think the level design in Pro Skater 1 and 2 are the series' best. And I think the addition of the mechanics from the later games really go a long way into, like, really making this the best possible Tony Hawk game. So, like, I think this is just, like, it feels the best to play, with the best levels, so I think it's really cool. Plus, it's got a lot of extra stuff compared to the originals, which is neat.
See, I think that's what, like, re-releases should be. Like, they should kind of, like, I guess stay true to the originals, but add, like, new features and just, like, overall more functionality, but still, like, the same premise as the originals, I guess.
Yeah, which is what this one did.
Good.
So yeah, I think this is, like, hands down, 100%, absolutely the best game in the series.
Nice.
And that's it. So far, there have been no more games in the series.
I was just going to ask that. I was like, that's it? So there's no more left? Like, no. I wonder if there will be.
Yeah, I mean, it's only been 2 years since the last one.
Yeah.
It looks like it might be dead for a third time.
Uh-oh. Well, I think it's cool that that Tony Hawk, like, is such a big name in skateboarding, and that he has, like, remained a big name since, like, all these years later. And I, like, enjoyed watching the Olympics, like, how they added skateboarding.
Yeah.
And he was one of the commentators, and I just, like, I thought that was the coolest thing, because there seems to be kind of, like, a resurgence in the sport.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, in real life, And I think adding it to the Olympics, like, increased its popularity again, and I just thought it was, like, the coolest thing that, like, he's still around and, like, still skating. Of course, he can't do, what he used to be able to do, but
yeah,
just to hear him being so impressed by, like, these new skaters and the new things that they're doing. So I think, like, it would still have relevance, today. Like, I think having his name on something would still have relevance today.
Well, that's probably, like, part of why Pro Skater 1+2 came out when it did. Like, as you said, there's been, like, kind of a resurgence in skateboarding.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I mean, plus nostalgia. Like, it's been, by this point, like, 20+ years since the original 2 came out.
Right.
So,
isn't that crazy? Like, it's still, relevant 20 years later, I think is really cool.
But yeah, the reason why people think the series might be dead is that despite the fact that Pro Skater 1+2 was well received and sold well, and it was later announced that remakes for Pro Skaters 3 and 4 were in the works, they got cancelled after Vicarious Visions got moved from developing their own games to being a support studio for other Activision stuff.
Oh.
Which is kind of just how the games industry works nowadays. It's not even the only, like, Activision remake developer that got put on other stuff as a support studio.
Yeah. So it might really be dead.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? Time will tell, and if they do decide to bring it back, if it'll be, like, more remakes or a new game, and if they'll, like, mess it up again.
I just don't understand how some things come out and they're just, like, a flop, because I feel like they do all this, like, testing and stuff, right? I mean, like, I would feel like that would show in the testing that it's just, like, not great, but I don't know.
I mean, that's the thing, though. It's like, it gets to the point where they're just like, I mean, because in 2015, the license was expiring, so they're like, just get something out as soon as possible. Like, doesn't matter how bad it is as long as it runs.
Right. I mean, I get that, too. Like, they're still making money off of something because people are still going to go buy it, just to see what it's all about. It's so disappointing because it's like, I don't know. Just feel like they should take the time to make it right. But I get, there's other dynamics in play. But, I'm glad this last version that you liked it, at least.
Yeah. Good game.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's with several different, games that you have that get re-released and new games added to it. Like, I'm sure it's the same way. Like, sometimes they're good, sometimes they're not.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
That is like a whole topic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a whole thing. But, yeah. Well, I'm glad they got the last one right. I mean, I feel like years in the seeing every hit and every flop, it's like, okay, let's go back to our roots,
Yeah.
I like it. I like the music features. I think that's cool.
Yeah, you should actually look up some of the soundtracks sometimes. I mean, I'm sure you'd recognize some
Yeah.
of the stuff, but yeah, it's real interesting.
I probably like it. I like the whole like skater scene. Like, I wasn't a part of it or anything. I just like it.
Yeah.
Like that whole culture,
Yeah, I'd especially recommend some of those covers of classic punk stuff from like contemporary at the time artists.
Yes. Yeah. I love that stuff. I think that would be pretty cool.
But yeah, so that's the series. You know, overall a fun series, even if it's not without its lows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you for that overview, retrospective. I mean, I think that was pretty interesting. So next time, like, I'm with you, like, you have to show me one of these games. I'll have to play it. If I can figure it out. I'll probably be terrible at it.
Well, alright.
Yeah. Well.
You want to take us out?
Yeah. So this has been Beach View. Join us next time. We hope you enjoyed it. Bye.
Bye.